Like I don't know all the answers. And I think that does give me a sense of weird confidence and that I don't know what I'm doing. And it's okay that I don't know what I'm doing because I know I'm going to figure it out. And that's maybe the big takeaway from who I was last year to who I am now is I still don't have the answers, and that's okay. I'm still seeing a lot of success, and I'm becoming this person that really relies on being okay in the discomfort of it all. And the eating different flavors of glass is really all about the human experience.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy. It's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callinan. Let's get to work. In our conversation today, we talk about what it looks like to scale a consumer brand at breakneck speed when you feel like you have no idea what you're doing, why entrepreneurship never really gets easier, just gives you different flavors of problems, an approach to handling constant crisis, pausing, breathing, moving immediately into the problem-solving mode instead of spiraling out of control, the power of becoming comfortable with uncertainty and learning how to operate without having all of the answers, critical part of entrepreneurship and kind of life in general. The imposter syndrome and how it doesn't disappear with success, even when you're crushing national retailers and massive distribution deals. I think it never disappears. We all have it pretty much all the time. Just part of human experience. The fake it till you make it reality of entrepreneurship and saying yes to opportunities before you fully know how to deliver them, and then just having to figure it out, which is a very consistent theme across successful entrepreneurs. So today our conversation is with Chrisi Hammer. I'm Adam Callinan. This is Growth Mavericks. Where in the US are you?
I live in Utah, so our headquarters are here. I grew up in Los Angeles, from Manhattan Beach. So
What?
I'm a beach girl, but I live in the mountains now. I've lived in the mountains longer than I've lived at the beach. So I guess I'm not a mountain person. I'm still a beach person. I just happen to live here. So
You're a beach person masquerading as a mountain person? Is that how it works?
yes. Where do you
So
live?
Manhattan Beach, my wife and I were in Manhattan Beach from 2009. We moved to Montana in 2020.
Oh my
We
gosh.
had a place in Manhattan Beach until the summer of 23. We were splitting time back and forth. Way more time in Montana,
Oh,
state of California. Don't hear
fantastic.
this and think you can come get me. We were
No,
here.
I
We were
won't.
here like 330 days a year.
Oh my gosh,
No,
that's so fun. My husband's actually from Kalispell, so he's
really
a Montana boy.
epic.
Yeah. Where are
Awesome.
you in Montana?
In Bozeman.
Bozeman. Okay, so that's south, right?
Also commonly known as Bose Angeles.
Yes, that's exactly,
Currently.
those, the LA people have taken over Utah and Montana and Wyoming and and here we are. You're in Montana and I'm in Utah. Did you grow up in Los Angeles?
I grew up in Flagstaff, Arizona,
Oh, okay.
which is
Cool.
like Bozeman. It's
Yes,
pretty
yes.
similar.
Flagstaff is very mountainous. It's interesting. It's pine trees and desert. It's an interesting place. I love Flagstaff. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
fun.
How
So
did you find
is your
yourself?
wife from Manhattan Beach?
No, she's from Phoenix.
Well, that's so funny. It's
We ended
such
up out there for work
okay.
in
It's
like
such
in
it's such an
2008.
interesting. Not a lot of people know about Manhattan Beach. It's awesome.
They're learning about it now. I
They're
don't know
like,
when's the last time you went back to Manhattan Beach, but I could tell you it
yes.
has been discovered.
No,
Not in a great way.
my brother lives in Redondo, so he's still very much there. Tons of family still there, but my parents are relocated to Utah a while ago, so my dad passed away, but my mom's still here, and two of my brothers are here, but I have one that's unfortunately a cop for LAPD, so he's in violent crimes, elite
Jeez,
detective, so he's got his hands full down there.
that sounds like a very difficult.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot there going on. We were down there recently for a Beach Life Festival. Do you know that?
Fun. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so magical. Like I love Los Angeles. I hope they can get things straightened up because it is truly one of the coolest cities and states, and the people are fantastic, and it's a vibe, so they're going to find their way some way or
It's
another.
the reality. Like we still go back there reasonably frequently. My wife still has some work back there. We've we're back there for a week over spring break, and the amount of crime in Manhattan Beach that we saw in the course of that 1 week is astonishing.
It's
Like, it has just changed so dramatically, and it's really sad, and we should stop talking about this because it's depressing.
I know
So,
it's depressing. It's depressing. Let's just
I
hope they're going to find
something
their
has to
way,
change. Yeah, they will. They'll figure it out,
They're going
hopefully.
to find their way.
Someone will
Yeah,
do that.
somehow.
So how do you find yourself in the world of entrepreneurship? How'd you get here?
Well, we own Sunshine Buns, so it's a cinnamon roll company that started in a brick and mortar and has now morphed into CPG, our retail landscape. We're going to be in about 4,500 doors by the end of this year. So we have scaled and scaled quickly. So I have lots I can contribute into the highs and lows and ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship, as they are many in a high growth company like ours. So that's where I find myself.
Let's go back to the beginning. You say it started as a single retail location?
Yeah, we have a brick and mortar, like a fresh store that you can come in and get buns that we bake every single day. We have a rotating menu lineup of sort of like the crumble of cinnamon rolls. So you can get there's always two signature flavors, and then there's rotating two flavors that come every single week. But we were going to launch in franchise. Like, we were going to build essentially the crumble of cinnamon rolls. And then once we opened up our store in August of 2024, after we had been baking and selling and delivering from our house and then opened up the brick and mortar, we were like, let's, go all in on franchising. And then pretty quickly after we opened our doors, we had a local gas station that had 75 doors approach us and say, like, hey, I want to sell these. We want to do wholesale. And it sort of just clicked right then and there. Like, oh my gosh, we thought this was going to be a franchise business, but this should be a wholesale business. So then we took pretty much all of 2025 developing, logistics and cold chain and packaging and co-mans and all of the nitty gritty that goes into CPG. And then we launched in 2025, late 2025, in about 500 doors here in the West, which you can get them in Bozeman. So they're where you are. You can
Mm.
get them now as we speak.
Where?
They're
Where can I get
there.
them in Bozeman?
Um,
Do you know?
it's through Associated Foods. So they're in Winco, so you can get them in Winco, but you can also get them in like Lynn's and Mike's and Dan's, and I think there's Town and Countries in
Oh, yeah,
Bozeman.
tons. There's like
Yeah.
1,000 of them.
Yeah,
They're
so
everywhere.
they're there. So you can get them there, but that was sort of where we launched initially in the West. And then we went to Fancy Food in January in San Diego, and it was a hit. I have an interior design background, so we were really intentional in our booth. It looks more like a storefront um, than it does a traditional booth that you would see at one of these trade shows. So we got a lot of attention and buzz, signed with a national brokerage, and then went to Expo, and it was just wildly successful at Expo. Um, and then pretty quickly after that, having national conversations with the big box stores. We'll be in Costco LA in first week of August, and then a couple national rollouts that I am going to announce here in the next week, but I don't have the green light to announce it yet.
Yeah.
But you can guess
Yeah.
that we're going to be in two huge national retailers by the end of the year. So I'm not exactly sure even what the beginning question was, but
No, it's fine. We're just gonna keep going. So, did you just
yeah.
always love cinnamon rolls? Like, where did this
It's
start?
my mom's recipe from the 1970s. She's Mima, affectionately known as Mima. She came up with the recipe. So I grew up with it my entire life. I had cinnamon rolls, which she came up with the recipe and would sell them in like local fundraising events and charities and give back to the community. And she came up with the recipe and actually called them Sunshine Buns. And so for 10 years before we started the business, I wanted to start this business. And my mom was never interested. And then I finally convinced my best friend and her husband, alongside my husband, to start the business in fall of 2022. And right then and there on that double date, we got the domain from GoDaddy. We launched the Instagram page, and in 6 days we were live selling and baking just from our houses. That quickly got out of control. So signed the lease on the brick and mortar and opened that in August of 2024. And then it was just immediate shift into retail. Like, that is so much of a smarter play. Really hard logistically to do that. But like I said, we took some time and really figured that out before we launched.
So this has been a whirlwind.
This is a
I mean, it's a short,
whirlwind.
it's a short window. I mean, I don't have a lot of I have a lot of experience in e-com and consumer brand, but not a lot in consumables
Yes, yes.
in the consumable world.
Yeah, we sort of skipped the entire e-com ecosystem and went straight into retail doors. And it's hard logistically. I'm sure since you've done a lot of e-com, it's hard to ship frozen food. It is expensive, and we're not like in the glory days of Facebook where it was easier to capture
Yeah.
consumers on, buying those leads on Facebook like it is now. It's a totally different landscape. So we do have a small presence online, but it's really like Instacart and DoorDash through our retail partners than it is like direct ship, because that's so expensive. So it's
Yeah, the
easier.
distribution
Yeah.
model makes so much more sense.
Yeah. Which it's really difficult to enter a retail distribution model. But we have a white space. You probably don't know this, but our product is a fully baked product that's frozen that you just put in the microwave for 45 seconds and you have a cinnamon roll. So it's like the very first of its kind, where it's already baked and has cool branding and a cool story and a great product. So we sort of hit this white space, which is how we've been able to explode as much as we have in the last.
Was it always frozen?
No, we have our fresh store, and originally when we were going to do wholesale, we were like, we'll get it to them fresh, and we were like, that's way too hard, because we would have to set up like commissary kitchens all over the country, and that just wouldn't have worked. So my mom, who is the inventor of the bun, was like, this is really great frozen. And at first we were like, we don't believe you. There's no way that it can be. And then we pressure tested what she said. We put them in the freezer, eat them next day. We're like, that's amazing. But what does it taste like in a week? Same thing. Amazing. What does it taste like in a month? Same thing. Amazing. So we were really lucky that we sort of had Mima as our secret weapon, because she had already tested this for decades and decades in every possible format. And that was really the thing that set us apart from anyone else in the space, is that ours was already baked and packed in a single pack so that it could be consumed by one person or multiple in the same setting, sort of like Uncrustables did, for PB&J, sort of the same thing. So
Frozen
no,
and
hasn't always
crustable
been
is
frozen.
amazing. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the guys from Froco, which is a frozen
Yes.
protein, like, ice cream, basically,
Yes.
and we talked through a lot of the same challenges that I honestly was entirely ignorant to, having not
Yes.
been in the food side of distribution.
Yeah,
And
it is a wild. E-com frozen is so hard to capture, and it's just too expensive, because like for us to overnight our samples through UPS, it's like $500. Like there's just no way that you
yeah,
can scale that,
no,
unless
no.
now all we need is for Uber and DoorDash to start driving semis with freezers in the back of them.
Yeah,
Then you can get it right away.
perfectly reasonable. Nothing wrong
Yeah,
with
it's
that.
so reasonable. So reasonable.
Yeah. So going through the wholesale distribution model, if you had to look back and, a year ago, this has only been going on, it sounds like, for maybe 2 years total, year and a
Yeah.
half total,
Yeah.
like really going on, like, what have you learned? What would you tell yourself to do differently based on what you know now entering the retail space?
I think for retail, it's super vital to have a sales organization that understands deeply about distribution. I think a lot of people that are in retail and frozen specifically think that they can get away with just entering these major distributors without having a deep understanding of cutbacks and chargebacks and freight and logistics and how that's going to be set up. And so they just sign their life away and they don't actually understand the contract and what it is. And you can't redline that. It's not like I can go to KeHE and be like, hey, this isn't going to work for my business. They're like, we don't care. This is how we distribute food. You play with us or you don't play at all. And so I think what I would encourage founders and other people in that are coming up through the ranks would be to partner with a national sales team that's small enough that can give you the attention you need, but has enough experience to be able to speak on those things that you don't understand and be an advocate for you while you're trying to build those relationships. They're very challenging and it's not as user friendly as maybe setting up your direct to consumer site. It's very complex and everybody wants a piece of the pie. So you need to make sure that you understand all the points of distribution and who's getting paid and who's getting paid when. And I think a sales organization should be offering you that in addition to sales services. Like they need to have an understanding of that because odds are you're just like me and you have no idea what you're doing from a distribution standpoint. So I think that's super vital.
How did you find that organization?
I touched on this a little bit ago, but we had a really successful food show, both at Fancy and Expo. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with them, but Fancy Foods and Expo are like the Super Bowl of food shows. All the major retailers are there, the buyers are there, brokers are there. Brokers are like sales organizations and then investors. So we went and we're new and we're not in the CPG space. So we didn't understand that our booth was as impressive as it was and the success that we had from it. And so we were able to get the attention of one of these incredible national brokers that doesn't normally deal with, they don't just take anybody. They're very exclusive. They only have 45 brands in their umbrella. But we were in a unique position from the success of the show to be able to um, interview several of those candidates, like who could be potentially a national brokerage. And we landed on Critical Mass Group, and that's who they are. They're called CMG, and they were super interested in us because of the show. And so I think if you are looking for national distribution, it's really important that when you show up to these shows, you show up and you look different and you stand out and you're not just like another plug and play. You have great product, great packaging, but that your booth is telling a story so that you can really get the attention of these people that know what they're doing. And like I said, making sure that they're small enough that they can give you the attention you need, but big enough that they have great relationships with these kind of legacy retailers, because CPG is all about relationships, making yourself accessible to them, interviewing several brokers before you make your decision, with those two things in mind: small enough that they can give you attention and big enough that they know the big boys.
Quick break, and this one is personal. Your ROAS is lying to you. I know this because mine lied to me for years. When I was building Bottle Keeper, I'd see a 4x ROAS or 5x ROAS, and I think we were absolutely crushing it. When we get to the end of the month, we'd see our P&L, and we barely broke even. Now, the dashboards and the platforms, all the things would say one thing. The bank account and the P&L said something entirely different. They were disconnected. The problem wasn't ads. It wasn't marketing efficiency. It's that those output metrics like ROAS and MER, they don't account for all the stuff that crushes your margins. These are things that are shipping and fulfillment, credit card fees, Shopify fees, the marketing agency we're using, the paid media itself. That's the only thing that ROAS accounts for. But there's all these other expenses. So I built this framework that starts with net profit and works backwards to tell you exactly how to spend ad budget and how the ROAS needs to perform in order to hit your net profit target. These aren't benchmarks. It's literally your numbers and expenses based on what's happening in your business. And best of all, I'm giving these secrets away for free in a profit masterclass that I created recently. It's the exact system I used at BottleKeeper to get to over 60 million in total sales with just 4 employees and 0 investors, ultimately to a private equity acquisition. So you can find this profit masterclass at pentane.com. But for now, let's get back to the show. There's a really similar philosophy and mindset around finding intellectual property attorneys.
Absolutely.
In that, like, you want them to be big enough that they
Yes.
can wield a big stick and have a lot of resource, but small enough
Yes.
where you get attention and it's not 1,000.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly right. Yes. Same philosophy.
Looking again back in our crystal ball, have there been, I have to assume that there are, because this is literally the way that we live in entrepreneurship. Have there been experiences that you were looking at the business wondering whether or not it was going to?
Absolutely. I feel like it's like that every day, even now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
In
Okay. That's
every
kind of
single
what I
day.
would think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, every
It's like
single
every.
day. I mean, because it's such a chicken and egg thing with retail. Like, if you're going to go through Unify and KeHE, which are these broadliner distribution points, and not just your Targets and your Krogers, which are super vital to your success too, but you can't just call KeHE and be like, distribute my food. My brand. They're like, no, you need a retailer. And then you go to the retailer and the retailer says, no, you need a distributor. So there is so much of you. And of course, the retailer's not going to take you on and the distributor's not going to take you on unless you can handle the capacity. And the co-man's not going to take you on unless you have the distributor and the retailer. So there's so much of emerging CPG brands that have to do so much fake it until you make it. Like, I will figure this shiz out. But I need you to first say yes. Before you're confident that you can actually do the thing that they're asking you to do, you have to say, yeah, I can definitely service 600 stores. And you're like, the reality is I really have no idea how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to work tirelessly to figure that out. So at every single point in my business, every single day, we're dealing with inflection points of like, oh my gosh, can we handle this? Do we have enough capital? Can we get more capital? Do we have can we get in line with the co-pack? Can we get the freight scheduled? Can we get the packaging in time? Can we get the new packaging in time? Can we get the samples out? Can we get into the cut-ins? Can we get to the, non-category review times with the retailers? I think it's literally a balance every single day of us trying to figure out if we can keep up and can this business make. I mean, for example, before I got on the phone with you, our co-man, we have huge POs that are due in, I think, 8 days. Our co-man just told us that the flow wrapper that we use to individually wrap our buns is not working, and we either need to get a new one, we need to spend $10,000 to get a technician in to fix it, or we're pretty much screwed. So that's like a huge issue that we have to solve just today within the last 5 minutes. And I'm sure there will be 3 other of those that hit at the same time, simultaneously getting new retailers placing POs in it live, like at the same time. So it's like there's inflection points of, production, and then there's inflection points of capital, and then there's inflection points of the retailers want you and you need to perform. So it's literally every day we're going through issues. Are we going to do this? Are we going to survive? I don't know if it ever gets better. It's probably all the way till the very end of that signing the deal with the strategic finally purchase your company that you're like, can we do this?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have experience in the frozen food world, but I can tell you that it doesn't. It just changes.
Right.
It's
It
like
just changes.
we had a similar conversation with Russell from Spot and Tango. It was this like epic dog food company that like went completely nuclear,
Nuts.
hundreds of millions of
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah.
And it's like it's eating glass is kind of how I think of
Yeah.
it. And Russell felt the same. And it's the glass it changes flavor
Yeah.
over time, but it's still glass. Like the texture changes a little bit. But I can tell
Yes.
you when it does change is at that point of acquisition, and you get on this weird call with 12 attorneys in 4 different states, and they all do this like old English version of they all have to say I in sequence, like that they commit to agree to this
I
thing.
I
And then you hang up the phone and it's done. And that's the only time it feels different.
that has to be the only time this feels different. I'm like, I can't comprehend a time in which this doesn't feel different. And it's funny, like we were talking about imposter syndrome, like on another day, I was talking about it and I'm
Huge
like,
thing. Yeah.
and they were asking, if I looked back on myself this time last year and I didn't even really understand distribution points or like, how would I possibly be entertaining conversations with Target nationally? I couldn't even fathom that to like where I am today. I think that last year I would have thought that Chrissy, that had an understanding of national retail Target, would be so much more confident than she is today, than I was last year. And it's like, no, I still feel like I have really no idea what I'm doing. I'm learning more and more every single day. I'm relying on my community and experts and people I brought into my ecosystem. But me personally, I'm like, I I don't feel any different. Even with the awards of like, you have national distribution, it's like, I still feel like crap. Are people going to like my cinnamon rolls? At the end of the day, I'm asking myself the same question that I was this time last year without the distribution. So I think it's just, you get better at hiring people that know what they're doing and can help you, tackle the big things that you don't understand and the problems that you need help with. But you personally, I really don't know. And probably even when I go through an acquisition, I'm still going to be like, gosh, this just started in my mom's kitchen in the 1970s. Like it still will always feel like, are people going to like my buns? Really, at the end of the day, like
Yeah.
you just always have this constant state of imposter syndrome. And I just don't know if it will ever feel less.
I mean, I think a huge part of it is just the human experience.
Right.
I mean, it's just part of being human.
Right. Well,
And
and
when that call happens, like it's real uncomfortable
yes.
because you go from having all of that running in your head and your mind for years and years or a
Yes.
decade, and then
Yes.
it just goes off.
And that's devastating. And I'm like, I think about that often. Like, that's going to already, I'm thinking about like, what's my next thing? Because I know this, even through all the issues, like that I'm just talking about, the 10 issues that I'm going to have today, I'm having the most fun I've ever had on this journey of like problem solving and creating a brand and like living in the eating different flavors of glass. Like, it's such a weird experience to be living in so much exhaustion and exhilaration at the exact same time. Like, this kind of juxtaposition of both of these feelings that I am so fearful of that day. And I think that gives me a sense of freedom. Like, it's not just getting to the acquisition and then, living on a beach somewhere. It's like, what can I contribute? Who have I become? What can I do in my next phase that will help others, kind of discover the path I've already been on? And you're right. It is all about like the human journey and the adventure that it takes to become the person that gets to that acquisition and is freeing. Like, I don't know all the answers. And I think that does give me a sense of weird confidence and that I don't know what I'm doing. And it's okay that I don't know what I'm doing because I know I'm going to figure it out. And that's maybe the big takeaway from who I was last year to who I am now is I still don't have the answers, and that's okay. I'm still seeing a lot of success, and I'm becoming this person that really relies on being okay in the discomfort of it all. And the eating different flavors of glass is really all about the human experience. You're absolutely right.
It's so important that you don't know the answers. I mean, I know you're saying that kind of flippantly, and I understand why, but like you're not supposed to.
No,
If you knew all the answers, that pigeonholes you into a track that completely precludes you from evolution, from learning, from education, from like the pain, which is an incredible teacher.
it's incredible.
And it is like the classic aphorism, like the more you know, the less you know.
Right. Yeah. The older we get, the dumber we are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a much better version. I
Yeah.
like
It's
that
like when
version
we
more.
were 16, we're like, my parents don't know anything. Are we serious? Our parents know everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
Absolutely.
mentioned in that talking about, I mean, quite literally getting more comfortable being uncomfortable,
Yes.
which is a huge part of where I spend time. And I mean, part of the reason I have this podcast. So, what do you do in your life to deal with that? I mean, getting comfortable being uncomfortable comes from the experience,
Right.
but generally speaking, how do you get away from it? Do you just run off into the mountains? What do you do?
I take some breaths. I like really don't react immediately because I know in that reaction, and I've reacted immediately a number of times to know like I overreacted because I know in the end it's going to be okay. And so I have the end in sight. The thing happens, right? The catastrophic moment happens. For example, we are in nationwide Winco. It's a huge retailer. They do major volume. We did 5 truckloads, hundreds of thousands of buns went to Winco. They went on shelf and there was a misprint on the package already at retail. And a year ago, I would have spiraled and been like, it would have sucked up a week of my attention and I would have cried and I would have been devastated and want to drive my car into a truck. Like I just would have really lived in like the pain of it. And now I know it will always be okay. So I take that initial moment and breathe, like take 5 deep breaths, like, okay. And I keep telling myself, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Because I know through my human experience, it has been okay. So, okay, we've got this catastrophic thing. I'm going to take a couple deep breaths and then I'm going to immediately dive myself into the problem. Instead of like, I'm going to go bury my head in the sand, the problem's still going to be there. You bury your head in the sand, it's the package misprint is still there. So the quicker you can get to the problem solve, the quicker you can get on the other side of it. So I take a couple deep breaths, I make a few phone calls, and then I immediately go into problem solving mode. And I find that that is actually the best thing you can do. Like immediately go into problem solve mode, and then it becomes less about you and how this affects you personally and more about solving the problem, which always makes you feel better. Like I'm getting to the meat of it all and really fixing the issue, and that's really what's going to bring me peace is doing the actual action of the problem solving. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's, again, so much of this is just like our human reptile brains,
Right.
right? Our monkey brain just looking at the thing and wanting to
Right.
throw a banana at it.
Right.
But being able to step away from it is really important. Mentally being able to step away from it. And that's a practice, like as to your story. I mean, that's obviously it's a thing that you learn. It's not generally inherent.
Absolutely. And I think in your times when you're not actively problem solving, I spend most of my free time, driving or a time in my life where I maybe would have listened to books or really taken myself into a far off place. I spend that time now where I'm not in active problems to educate myself, to have that armor ready. Like I'll listen to your podcast about, I was just listening to that podcast today where you had the golfer on. What was his name?
Yeah, Taylor.
Taylor. And, you know, it's, it's about like listening to other people who have gone through things and maybe not your exact same experience, but the experience of entrepreneurship and like how they dealt with the setbacks and then how they got through those setbacks. So I spend my spare time listening to people who have succeeded through hardship. What did they learn? What did they take with them during that hardship to make them a better entrepreneur? And that has given me so much armor going into my day to day with problem solving. Like, oh, I know Taylor went through this thing. And so he made it out okay. I'm going to make it out okay. And the more you can give yourself that sort of catalog of stories of entrepreneurs that have made it through the hardships, the more safe you feel. Like everyone goes through this. I don't know if you listen to How I Built This, but it's a fantastic show. And the guy who came up with Chobani, I can't remember his name. He's so fantastic. That episode's fantastic. But, he's doing billions in sales. And he opens up a new warehouse and, it's 1 million square feet. And out of that warehouse comes moldy yogurt, hundreds of millions of units of moldy yogurt. Like, how could you possibly come back from that? And he shares how he did. And so, if he could get through hundreds of millions of moldy, we know Chobani's doing well today. He obviously made it through that. If he can get through that, then I can get through a misprint of 20,000 bags, right? Like, so it's really arming yourself with past experiences, both you personally and others who have gone through the hardships of entrepreneurship to really get you ready for that daily battlefield.
Yeah, we always think about, as entrepreneurs, feeling like you're on an island, and you hear about that a lot, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's true. It's like right there in line with imposter syndrome. Everybody
Yes.
does it. The highlight reels that you see on Instagram and LinkedIn are not real. Those are fake. Those are marketing and spin, basically, in psyops.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it does not encapsulate all these things that we all have. But I do think there is a lot of beauty in hearing the stories of other people, which is frankly why we do this. This is why
Yes.
this podcast, why I wanted to do this, was to talk. Not, the highlights are great and they're fun, but it's all the good stuff is in that kind of like pain suffer zone
Absolutely. Like,
that we learn from.
how'd you get to this point? It wasn't just rainbows and butterflies. Tell us the bad stuff.
Yeah. This is super fun, Chrissy. How do you want people to find you, to find your brand? We'll post links and everything in the show notes.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on LinkedIn, just Chrisi Hammer, and I do post. I give it the good, the bad, the ugly, all the things.
Awesome.
We had a broken icing machine and we had to take it from the plant. My husband worked on it all Memorial Day weekend. So I posted all about how, like, it's not really glamorous, and I'm really big believer in sharing the wins and the setbacks. So you can find me there on LinkedIn sharing the journey of, kind of building this brand. And then you can find the brand on Instagram, sunshinebuns.co. We have lots of fun on there. And then nationally, you'll be able to find us in the fall pretty much in 5,000 doors, like we had said. So you'll be able to really find us pretty soon. And then we're in Texas and the West over now. But like I said, we'll be nationwide in the fall. In the freezer section, you'll find us.
In the freezer section, important
Yeah.
note. I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important note.
Yeah.
This is really cool. Congrats on having the success that you've had in a very short period of time.
Thanks.
It may not feel short because you're in the middle of it, but like if you zoom out, do your 30,000 foot view, it is really a fantastically short.
Yeah.
The distribution milestones and things that you've had. So congrats on that. And thank you for being honest and open. That's where all the good stuff is.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Thanks, Chrissy.
Thanks, Adam.
A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient, create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers, stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.